It was Tony Blair who gave the Welsh a devolved government after he gave them a referendum back in 1997, and it was a narrow yes vote. But unlike the left during Brexit, those people against Welsh independence and devolution didn't cry about it being too narrow and demanded another vote to get what they wanted. So a woke Welsh country is just another thing to blame Tony Blair on, really, and rightly so. That guy has so much to answer for. So anyway, the latest in woke Wales is that there is a £900 million budget crisis. And this is the worst financial crisis the Welsh have had since devolution began. So how much funding does the Welsh Government get from Westminster? Well, it was around 20.1 billion, but next year it's increasing to 24 billion. So compared to the other countries on this island, public spending per person in Wales is 13,401, in Scotland it's 13,881, 14,062 in Northern Ireland, and 11,549 in England, so the English get the worst end of the deal. So there is a financial crisis in Wales. It is a woke Welsh government running it, and everything in Wales is run by a Welsh government. They run their own affairs, but they couldn't do it without the billions in British taxpayers' money. And what do they spend this money on? Well, as you could expect, woke vanity projects. Now, public services in Wales is on its knees, particularly in the NHS. Welsh people who urgently need medical treatment, they find themselves going over to England to get on a shorter waiting list. And that's because Mark Drakeford's Welsh Labour governments have made a complete hash brown of finances. This is just yet another proof that they just can't run their own country. So if, God forbid, they ever have independence, that country would be screwed, and I mean royally. And can you imagine if they did get independence and they joined the EU, ironically? Of course, they could never join the EU. They don't have the necessary wealth to become a member so that Brussels can plunder it. Because in the EU, they get given money, and the EU tell them what to spend that money on. And if they don't, well, the financial repercussions are pretty harsh. Unlike how Westminster treats Wales. Westminster gives Wales the money, and that's it. How they spend it, it's their business. There are no repercussions. Now, like I mentioned earlier, considering the Welsh Public Services is on its knees, the Welsh Labour government is spending more money prioritising woke virtue signalling after it's ordered public buildings to fly flags celebrating asexual and aromantic people. Now, I had to look up aromantic and what it means, and apparently it's to represent people who don't fall in love after you sleep with them. So these people need their own flag for some reason. And that's the thing, the left. They're calling us on the right and conservatives and patriotic folk. They say we are flag shaggers, but we only have the one flag, or maybe two, the Great Union flag and the George Cross. And that's it. However, the lefties, the Leftwaffe, the Woko Haram, they have multiple flags. Everyone and their dog has a flag to represent them. And there will be a time, folks, in the near future where people who either stand up or sit down to pee will have their own flags. I mean, there was even talk not long ago of putting a symbol to represent autism on the LGBT and the rest of the alphabet flag. I mean, what does autism have to do with sexuality and gender? It's bonkers, isn't it? These people are nuts, and they are the real flag shaggers. And the Welsh Government want to spend more British taxpayers' money on shite like this, rather than their broken public services. And it's astonishing that drippy Mark Drakeford, the guy with a face like a melted Wellington boot, can go on television and say there's no money for anything, when Welsh news reporters ask him, why haven't you spent money on the NHS? Why haven't you spent money on public transport? Why haven't you spent money on youth centres to keep kids out of trouble? But no, there's no money for that kind of thing. Instead, he spent millions on reducing the national speed limit to 20 miles an hour, building housing estates in North Wales exclusively for migrants, and a statue somewhere in South Wales of the country's first ever ethnic minority teacher. It's ridiculous, isn't it? God help the Welsh people if they ever get independence, that's what I'm saying. And again, calling us people on the right flag shaggers. is just hypocrisy defined, isn't it? There we go, that's my video. Hope you like. Please let me know what you think in the comments, and until the next time, Roger Trout.